how did you get how did that come about? How did you say coming up with the idea of HVAC? What's the genesis of that and how it began?
Well, so Rival Digital launched as I guess a child company of Array Digital, or sister company, you might want to call it. And it's just focusing on the niche of doing marketing for HVAC contractors only. And so that's our entire audience, or our entire target that we go after. So when we started looking at ideas for like a podcast, there was a lot out there that are related to like the technical aspect of the trade, hands-on type stuff. But there was only like one or two that were like marketing specific. And of those two, only one of them actually posted very often, if any at all. The other one was about 2 years away from, or 2 years out from their last episode. So there just seemed like there was a pretty cool little opportunity there to start a podcast that was entirely focused on marketing an HVAC business versus learning the trade or any of that other stuff.
And so your audience. I'm sorry, Zach. Your audience is HVAC companies and HVAC workers.
Yeah, I would say it's more so the owners of HVAC companies. There's a lot of times if you have like an HVAC technician, they're not typically super interested in the marketing and business side of it. They're more so interested in the trade side of it. So we do have a few technicians that listen, and I imagine that some of those are probably some of like the moonlighters who, are working side jobs and are trying to like grow their own brand on the side and with hopes of starting their own HVAC business. But for the most part, our audience is owners of HVAC businesses, and then people who do marketing for HVAC businesses as well.
Was it difficult to figure out that the person who could listen actually is listening on that platform? Right. So like, oh, do you blog? Because a lot of people are saying now, okay, podcasts are the new blog, right? So, well, people aren't reading stuff, right? Do you write for that target customer, if you will? Fancy hat, by the way. I just got it yesterday. Thanks. Appreciate it. It's very nice and fitting since I'm having such a terrible hair day. Yours is in the mail. I will guarantee it. But I think some of the challenges that people have with business in general is finding out who their target customer is. Okay, you guys figured out that HVAC business owners are likely your customer, right? But then to say, hey, we're going to go almost all in on this one platform. And how did you recognize that they were there and listening? Because that seems to be a pretty big assumption on in a world where assumptions can derail a business getting off the ground, if you will.
Yeah. So really, I mean, I kind of figured out that people were listening to podcasts in this industry just based on the Google searches that came up when I typed in HVAC podcast. There was hundreds of podcasts related to HVAC. And so I realized like, okay, there are people listening to this type of content. There is an audience out there for it. And then I did research on Facebook as well, like looking for Facebook groups that had HVAC and podcast in it.
But didn't you just say there was the leading podcast for digital marketing HVAC was like years before?
So yeah, for marketing, yeah.
So you added that keyword in there for this specific type of, got it.
Right, yeah. So yeah, we noticed once we saw that, like if you go type in HVAC podcast, you're going to see a ton of different podcasts,
but not directly for HVAC.
For marketing. So that was really the big opportunity there. And it just made sense to name it the Smart HVAC Marketing Podcast, because for SEO purposes now, if someone types in HVAC Marketing Podcast, we just flood the first page of Google.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you put your face on a poster on the wall behind you where you record. Do you ever? I also have a poster of myself on the wall behind me. Not the awards and the newspaper stuff. Actually, that's me from a different life. I just want everyone to realize that. Is that a conscious effort to do something like that? Like, why have that thing up there? If that's because it looks like it's just kind of the thumbnail banner of the show. What was the reasoning behind having something on the wall there?
The wall was just a little bare, and we wanted to have something on it. And I record in this corner of the office, so I thought it was just a pretty good spot to have it. And also it helps because if I'm doing StreamYard and I want to change out the branding, like where you have StartWheel, I would usually have the Rival Digital logo or like the the podcast thumbnail. Now I can remove those branding elements and put.
Got it. We can put different things up there, like a different StartWheel logo. Ooh, a fancy book. Like we can do different things. So
now I don't have to put the branding on the screen. I can just have it right here.
Interesting. And so then it's always, so from a clip perspective, it's you have that logo always on there no matter what. And I don't think people give that as much credit as necessary. It's like that little thing could be the reason why people are listening, but then they look and they see, some sort of a logo. That can be the one little piece of marketing that gets them to go to the website to look at that thing. I mean, I appreciate that. So cool. Tim?
Yeah, I just think that one of the cool lessons. So the premise of this show is get people the tips that they need to have a successful business. And one of the things that we always are talking about is customer segmentation. And when you think that you have your customer identified, segment some more and segment some more. And if the more narrow that you can get that focused, the better off you're going to be, because you need to understand who your customer is. You can't be all things to all people. And it's cool to see a podcast like this that is so narrowly focused, and you really, really know who your customers, or in this case, your listeners are. So it's really effective. And in terms of, I would think that this works really well in terms of engagement and you being able to communicate with those listeners and maybe customers.
Yeah. Well, and it's something to realize that, like, when you're doing a business podcast and it's so niche and so laser focused, like I know, like, I'm not going to become the next Joe Rogan. Obviously I'm not going to, become the next Andy Frisella or whoever the next big podcaster that you enjoy is. But we could be that type of person to a very specific person who is our ideal client, from a business development standpoint is great. So we can get in front of them that way. But also we're able to, we have a smaller reach, if you will, because it's not everyone. But the engagement, like you said, is 10 times greater than what it probably could have been if we try to just do a general podcast.
It is. You can't become the next big podcaster. That statement that you made, is that because the style of material, the style of show that you do is for a very niche industry, and so it's results driven and laser focused, if you will, where sorry,
I'll do
inside joke. So is it because that's just a smaller pool and there's not billions of people that potentially could listen to that, because it's just people looking for HVAC marketing instead of just like general public information like those other podcasts that you mentioned, those other shows would be? Is that the reason?
Yeah. So, like, I'm not gonna become the Joe Rogan of the podcasting world, but I could be like a Joe Rogan for the HVAC podcast world. I could be like that.
And I think what's interesting about this that people don't appreciate, don't respect, overlook, is that it's okay that number isn't bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Like, you don't need that to see results in the stuff that you're doing. Yet many believe that if they don't hit that big 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 37 figure number, that they can't see success. And I think what you guys have done with the Smart HVAC Marketing podcast, hosted by Eric Thomas of Rival Digital, I can almost read.
Yeah.
I think that is kind of pinpointing that exactly, where it's like you saw a hole, you already had this company, now you found this hole in the market, and it's helpful.
Well, yeah, and it's led to 68.5% of our new clients for the entire year of 2021 have been from the podcast, either guests or just listeners. And actually, of that 68%, I think like 12% were actually guests, and then the other remaining number, I don't know math, the rest were just listeners who were listening to the show, and when the time was right and they decided, okay, this podcast has sparked a thought in my mind that maybe I can grow my business if I just do a little more marketing. Then they remembered, hey, there's that one company that has that podcast, and that's where I get all my ideas from. I'll call them and see what they have to say. And that's how we kind of have grown our business a little bit this year.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, I would rather have a smaller number of listeners and it being dominant on page one from a Google standpoint than having 100,000 listeners or pick a huge number and then zero engagement, and then you're completely lost on Google page 5, 6, or whatever. No one goes past page one, maybe two anyway. So, yeah, that's well, a lot of people just don't realize that. They get so hung up over likes and comments and all the glamour metrics of everything. So,
Yeah.
I'm curious in terms, I mean, to me, was part of your thinking just in the sense of the HVAC industry is there? I mean, there's just so many different. I mean, if you take one drive down the street, you're going to have probably past 10 different companies, 10 different trucks that are all different companies that are all, there's just not a major player in that market. I mean, the same holds true for plumbing and electricians or landscapers. Are you moving that needle at all in terms of our competitors of one another in the same area starting to do the same things, or the people that are listening, learning and taking their business and increasing their business? What have you noticed anything to this point?
I guess from a local standpoint, no, I'm not certain that it's really affected the local market a whole lot. But I will say that there have been several times now where, we've had a contractor reach out to us and say like, oh, I heard certain person say this on this one episode and now I'm doing it. And so that's really been kind of cool to hear, different people across the country just taking away little nuggets from each episode and applying it to their business to help, increase their marketing and really grow their business. I don't believe though that there has been a ton in the local market here that has listened to the podcast and revolutionized the way they go to business or whatever. But
but a lot of your clients, you're focused on not in the market, so that you are a business that's housed, headquartered in the 757, but your clientele is not necessarily housed in the 757.
Oh no, yeah, I think we've got two in the 757, and then we got one Northern Virginia, Tennessee, Indiana, California, Las Vegas.
I would prefer if you just name off the cities and the states at the same time. So Juneau, Alaska, Phoenix, Arizona. That was a song
all the way to Tacoma.
Yeah, that's the song that I had to sing in elementary school.
Are you stuck at your home office, socially distanced coffee shop, or your fancy all bricked out corner office, wondering why no one can see your business and sales are all over the place? Sounds like you need a pro. That's why I developed the Anomaly Academy. Insert clever copy here. Oh, I guess I was supposed to put something else there. Oops. You can grab access to the Anomaly Academy now at ZachMillerSays.com/Anomaly Academy.